Welcome back to Jackson Square. Today we're going to look at how to convert a fraction to a decimal and a fraction to a percent. We just finished working with fraction operations, so this is the appropriate place to start for us. So let's jump right in. Fraction to decimal. Step 1, divide the numerator by the denominator. So if we had a fraction 7/20, it's telling us to divide the numerator by the denominator. This seems familiar. We've been doing this. It's called TIBO. Remember? TIBO means top in, bottom out. So if our fraction is 7/20, 7 would go in the house, 20 would go outside of the house. So I know some of you guys are looking at this and you're saying, my teacher told me the big number always goes in the house. Well, I'm here to tell you, your teacher told you a tall tale. Any number can go inside of the house, because if we only put the big numbers in the house, we would never have fractions, which are parts of a whole, or decimals, which are parts of a whole. Any number can go inside that house. How are we going to be able to divide this? We add a decimal point and two zeros. We're going to add a decimal point and 2 zeros, okay? And I don't have my handy dandy piece of paper, so I'm making one. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? Divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down, start over. Okay? So, how many times can 20 go into 7? No times. I put a 0 there. Bring my decimal straight up. I'm sorry, I forgot about that word. How many times can 20 go into 70? So, 2, 4, 6. I know that 2 times 3 will give me 6, so we're going to go with 3. 3 times 20 will give me 60. I subtract, I get 10. Is 10 less than 20? Yes. Check off my 3. Bring down my 0. What times 20 will give me 100? I know that 2 times 5 is 10, so 5 times 20 would be 100. 5 times 20 is 100. I subtract, I get 0. Is 0 less than 20? Yes. Check it off. There's nothing left to bring down, so I'm done. Okay? So 7/20 is the same as 3,500. Let's remember our place value. We have it in our notebook. So go back and look at your decimal place value. So this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. We've been doing it the whole time, except we were getting remainders. Now we want to add a decimal and zeros if we need to. So I'm going to model one more for you guys, and then you're going to try one. So let's try 3/4. How do you go from a fraction to a decimal? The same way you would go from an improper to a mix. You're going to do TIBO, okay? TIBO. Top number is going to go in the house, which is 3. Bottom number is going to go out. You're going to add a decimal and 2 zeros. I always start with 2 zeros, okay? A decimal and 2. Grab my handy dandy piece of paper. How many times can 4 go into 3? Hopefully you are saying no time, so we're going to put a 0 there. Again, I forgot to bring that decimal point up. You guys need to be saying, bring that decimal up. How many times can 4 go into 30? If you think about it, 4 times 7 is 28. That's the closest I can get. We're going to subtract. I have to borrow from the 3. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Is 2 less than 4? Yes. Check off my 7. Slide my paper over. Bring down my 0. What times 4 will get me closest to 20? 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is a 0. 0 is less than 4. Check off my 5. Nothing left to bring down. So 3/4 is the same as 7,500, which we all should know because we think about quarters in a dollar. There are 3 quarters that make up a dollar. So 3 out of 4, right? 75 hundredths. 3/4 is 75 cents, 75 hundredths. So I have one that I want you guys to try. I want you to try 2/5. You're going to use T-Bow and divide. Top in, bottom out. Numerator divided by denominator. Take a second, pause, work it out, and then come back and see if you're right. All right, let's see if we got it. So this time you should have put 2 in the house with 2 zeros and 5 outside. Can 5 go into 2? 0 times. Slide my paper over. Again, bring up that decimal. Stop being like Miss Jackson. Bring up the decimal. I'm totally forgetting. 4 times 5 will give me 20. I subtract. I get 0. Is 0 less than 5? Check off my 4. Slide my paper over. I get 0. 0 times 5 is 0. I subtract. I get 0. 0 is less than that. Check off my 2 numbers. So you should have gotten 40 hundredths, or you can write it as 4 tenths because we normally drop off the 0 after. Okay? So how do we change a fraction to a decimal? We divide the numerator by the denominator. We use T-Bow. Fraction to decimal. Okay? Divide the numerator by denominator. And here are some examples. Now we want to look at how do we convert a fraction to a percent. So how do we go from a fraction to a percent? So it says first convert the fraction to a decimal. Hey, we learned how to do that over here. We're going to make it a decimal. Then we're going to move the decimal, and that's decimal points. We're going to move the decimal point. So put a little PT there. The decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay? Why do we move it 2 places to the right? Moving it 2 places to the right is like multiplying that decimal number times 100. Okay? So multiplying the decimal number times 100 is the same as moving it 2 places to the right. After you've moved it 2 places to the right, you write a percent sign and you're done. So let's get some examples. First of all, we need to know what percent means. Percent. Percent means out of 100. Okay? So percent is out of 100. Percent means out of 100. So let's start with a fraction we already have, 3/4. We know that 3/4 is 75 hundredths because we did it on the other side. So if I wanted to make it a percent, I would move my decimal point 2 places to the right. So decimal point here, 1, 2. Okay? So my decimal point would end up behind my 5. And it will become 75%. Okay? So you first take your fraction, convert it to a decimal by dividing, doing T-Bow. And then after you've done that, you put a percent sign under it. Okay? So let's try 2/5. Again, we've already done the work for 2/5. We know that 2/5 is 40 hundredths. We want to move that decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. My decimal point ends here. So then this turns into 40%. And last, I want to let you guys try one. What about 7/20? What would 7/20 be as a decimal? Take a second, pause the video, and give me that percentage. Well, hopefully you remember from our work, which is right here, that 7/20 is 35 hundredths. We know that we need to move our decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, and then 35 hundredths would become 35%. Can you have a decimal point in your percentage? Yes, 12.5%, 35.5%. You can have a decimal point in your percentage. Percentage is not always a whole number. These examples just didn't have one, okay? So if you see one later with a decimal in the percentage, you can have it. You only move it 2 places to the right. You're not trying to make it a whole number. So let's review. How do you go from a fraction to a percent? You convert the fraction to a decimal, then you move the decimal point 2 places to the right. That's the same as multiplying the decimal number times 100. And then you write the percent sign. Now let's get into some practice.